is facing Patrick Ferguson, Washington's back. So he's got him in his sights, he's ready to take the shot. All of a sudden Washington's horse turns and Washington now has his back to Ferguson. What did he do, Pudge?
Didn't shoot.
He's a man of honor. He's not going to shoot anybody in the back. So he does not take the shot that possibly ends the Revolutionary War, because you don't shoot somebody in the back. That goes back into the Westerns. And then if you're a back shooter, the Westerns, Gunsmoke, anybody guys ever watch Gunsmoke or any Westerns on TV? Never back shoot anybody. You're a coward. Well, because Ferguson considered himself a man of honor, he refused to take the shot that could have ended the war for the Americans. But he then makes the decision to try to take Washington prisoner of war. Does that work out for him, Pudge? Did you read anything about that? Yeah, he didn't. He made the decision, I'm not going to shoot him in the back, but I'll try to take him prisoner of war, which would have been good. Fails in that attempt. So Captain Patrick Ferguson's legacy as a sharpshooter will be defined by the shot he did not take. Okay? So Ferguson has General Washington dead in his sights, ready to fire. Washington's horse turns and Washington's back appears in Ferguson's sights. A man of honor, he refuses to take the shot, changes his plan from shooting Washington to capturing Washington, fails in his attempt, and British Captain Patrick Ferguson's legacy as a sharpshooter will be defined by the shot he did not take. Okay, now we're going to get into Kendrick's story with Timothy Murphy when we get to the next subtopic, which is the Battle of Saratoga. The Battle of Saratoga. Okay, the Battle of Saratoga. Well, on October 17th of 1777, October 17th of 1777, 7,000 British soldiers are stationed in New York preparing for a major battle that could settle the Revolutionary War. On October 17th of 1777, 7,000 British soldiers are stationed in New York preparing for a major battle that could settle the Revolutionary War once and for all. If the British win this battle at Saratoga, New York, the Revolutionary War will be over in favor of Great Britain. So if the British win this battle at Saratoga, New York, the Revolutionary War is going to be over and Great Britain is going to be the victor. Again, the British are heavily favored in this battle at Saratoga, and they're going to be led by a very distinguished general by the name of Simon Fraser. F-R-A-S-E-R. Simon Fraser is going to be the British general leading these 7,000 troops against the Americans at Saratoga. Timothy Murphy, now known as the Widowmaker, has been given his orders. Take Simon Fraser out. Am I right? So far?
Well, the actual quote.
Okay, here we go. That's why I love this. What's the actual quote?
Was, shoot that man on the gray horse. He is a host and must be disposed of.
There we go. Shoot that man on the gray horse. He is a host and must be disposed of. So he's given his orders. He is to shoot Simon Fraser. And he's been given the nickname Widowmaker.
Or Sure Shot Tim.
Or Sure Shot Tim. I like Widowmaker better. Just sounds better, doesn't it? Making all these ladies widows. Murphy is 300 yards away from Fraser, which is a challenge even for him. It'd be a challenge for anybody. Open sights with a Kentucky long rifle. Murphy is approximately, the story varies, but 300 yards is what we're going to go with. Now, this battle is taking place in what type of terrain? Did you pick that up? Where was this battle at Saratoga? What was the terrain like?
Well, I know he climbed up in the tree.
Yeah, very heavily wooded. Okay? So his best shot, as Kendrick said, attaboy, is this best opportunity is going to be up from a tree because they're fighting in a wooded area. So with this battle taking place mostly in forested land, Murphy realizes his best opportunity at the best shot will be from up in a tree. So he makes his way up into a tree and waits for the opportunity to kill British General Simon Fraser. Gets up in a tree. Well, as the battle is raging, Murphy takes careful aim and kills Fraser with a single shot as he's rallying his troops in battle. Kills him with a single shot at 300 yards from a tree. Now, you got to think about this. The British are very fond of Fraser, and he's rallying them in this battle. And all of a sudden, this public, brutal killing of their leader right in front of them is a huge blow to their morale. Here goes their main guy, shot and dead. Well, what happened once their beloved general fell?
Sir Francis Clark.
Well, you go ahead. Let's hear it. I'm not going into that, but I'd like to hear it.
You don't know?
Go ahead.
Sir Francis Clark galloped into the battlefield to give an important message. Timothy shot a second time and killed him.
There you go.
Okay.
So he shot 2 British leaders?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, he shot them both. Well, after those 2 were shot, this is why I give you these paragraphs. After those 2 commanders were shot, Fraser's troops faltered, and they ended up retreating into defensive positions. They were on the offensive until Fraser was shot. And then who was shot delivering another message to the front?
Sir Francis Clark.
Sir Francis Clark is shot, and these British soldiers are watching these leaders being cut down like you can't believe. They falter and they are forced to retreat into defensive positions. Well, by the end of the day, America sealed its victory at Saratoga. Now, it took a while for them to surrender, about a week later, but guess how many redcoats surrendered a week later? Of the 7,000 that started. 6,000. 6,000 surrendered. That was a huge victory for the Americans, to get 6,000 redcoats to surrender. So a week after the battle, still trying to hang on, 6,000 redcoats surrendered. That was about 25% of the entire British forces in America at the time. Okay? So there's about 24,000 at the time, and they got 6,000 of them to surrender a week after Saratoga. Now, here's another thing we're going to talk about. This, according to historians, was the turning point in the war, where we started to actually see a possibility of victory in sight after Saratoga. And who makes it happen? Timothy Murphy, another no-name history person that kids have not heard about. Timothy Murphy, his shooting of Simon Fraser, and then who?
Francis Clark.
Francis Clark rallies the Americans to victory over the British, resulting in 6,000 British soldiers surrendering, and puts us on the top of the mountain looking down to victory instead of this climb. Now, it's still going to be a fight, but Saratoga becomes the turning point in the war for the Americans, and the heart of this good fortune was Timothy Murphy's precisely aimed shot, killing Simon Fraser. Okay, let's finish up here with a cold winter at Valley Forge for the Continental Army. Okay, cold winter at Valley Forge. You've probably heard about Valley Forge, have you not? For the Continental Army, have not? You've got to work on this history of these elementary grades. When was the victory at Saratoga? Month and year?
October 1776.
Okay, so what's coming on? Winter. So less than 2 months after the American victory at Saratoga, one of the worst winters in history settles in on the American colonies. one of the worst winters in American history sets in. And Washington and his Continental Army had to find a place to settle in for the winter, and the place they chose was just 20 miles northwest of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at a place called Valley Forge. So with winter setting in 1777, less than 2 months after their victory at Saratoga, Washington and the Continental Army have settled in for the winter at Valley Forge, just 20 miles northwest of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Washington has 11,000 American soldiers with him. 11,000 American soldiers. And they're going to try their best to survive this horrible winter at this small village known as Valley Forge. Okay, so Washington has 11,000 members of the Continental Army with him, and they are going to try to survive this horrendous winter at Valley Forge. Well, Ed was telling you this. There was supposed to be a supply line that Congress provided that would allow Washington and his soldiers to get supplies to survive that winter. Because of the war, that supply line that was supplied by Congress is completely broken down. And during this winter, the soldiers at Valley Forge are going to have no supplies, no medicine, no blankets, no food. So because these supply lines that were supposed to be provided by Congress have broken down, soldiers at Valley Forge during a horrible, horrible winter are going to have no supplies, no medicine, no blankets, no food. I'll tell you tomorrow how they survived that horrific scenario. Okay, so I didn't go that. They weren't the Donner Gang. Okay.
I think it's funny if there's like certain people